Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast, where we talk about one Andrew McMahon song per episode. Andrew's been writing and recording music for more than 20 years in such bands as Something Corporate, Jax Mannequin, and most recently, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. Recently, I connected with a fellow Andrew McMahon fan who had a particular interest in a song that, admittedly, I don't know much about. She had such a passion for the song we're going to talk about today that I just knew it was the right choice for the song and with this particular guest. So welcome to the show, Marissa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so glad you're here. Why don't you start off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name's Marissa. I am a writer and I write a lot about music. It's something that I'm very passionate about. Did album reviews and stuff like that in high school and kind of took off from there, writing more personal essays about my connection to music, in addition to fiction and other essays. I'm also a high school teacher. I teach English and creative writing. And I have a podcast that is kind of on hiatus for right now, but it's called Terrible Writing. And I read things that I wrote a long time ago and critique them and sort of try to give other writers tips based on very cringy diary entries, poetry from high school, stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely a unique podcast. And you're not still actively doing that podcast?
I'm not currently, because I sort of went through everything I had to talk about. I found all the old bad everything and was sort of left looking for some guests or other people to come on and read some of their bad old writing. But a lot of my writer friends were like, no, thanks. So there were definitely some people that were a little too shy, but I hope to pick it up again. We'll see. I have like 13 episodes or so.
That's cool. Well, I can attest to the fact that it is sometimes hard to find guests, finding that cross section between the subject of interest and someone who actually wants to express their opinions on a podcast. So I really appreciate you being on here with me today to discuss this song and actually help me discuss this song. So tell us how you first came by Andrew's music anyway.
Yeah. So, you asked me that question and then I was trying to pinpoint a year of when I was in early high school and riding in a car with somebody on my dance team who happened to be playing it and said, oh, this is Something Corporate. And I got, I was very intrigued. It was like unlike anything I had ever heard before. And it was either 2001 or 2002, which then when I looked up when the albums came out, I was like, wow, like that was really early. This person was an early adopter of Something Corporate. And the song was actually If You See Jordan, which is not really my favorite anymore. But as a freshman or sophomore in high school that I remember thinking like, this was cool. Like the idea of here's this preppy bully kind of kid and you're sort of taking him down a notch. That really spoke to me. I guess I had heard other music like it, but it was like Good Charlotte and other things that felt maybe like Avril Lavigne, like they're trying they're like trying too hard to do that, if that makes sense.
Yes,
so
I know what you mean.
Kind of felt more genuine to me in a way. So I was pretty excited to hear that one track and I remembered the name, but I kind of forgot about it for a little while. Oh, one thing that I did want to say about that girl is that as a cautionary tale in the suburb where I'm from, her family actually got sued for downloading songs.
Oh, wow.
Everybody says, oh, like, it's never going to happen to me. But then, a lot of people have that one person they know that it did happen to, and it almost seemed kind of random. Her family got sued. $3,000 is how the story, at least like the local legend went, for having 30 songs on Kazaa that they like hadn't even looked at in a while. That scared
insane.
me. I was like, oh, so even if I stop actively doing it, they still somehow got caught. But it was in the service of me later on being a Andrew McMahon fan all these years later. So thank you for that.
With all the music I downloaded in that era, they would have bankrupted my family.
Yeah, right. Like
I don't
know if there's some limit to that, to how much they could get someone for that, and if certain platforms were worse than others. I do remember Kazaa being like a bad one. Also for like downloading viruses and songs that like turned into deafening mush halfway through. The ones that was like a high pitched. It was like a high pitched squeal halfway through, or like
20 seconds in, that was the worst.
Yeah,
if you
and
were in
sometimes I would
headphones.
like listen to music to go to sleep, and I would have this freshly burned CD, and then like halfway through a song, it would really scare me. But yeah, lessons learned. I mean, most of us like are streaming music now, which if
Yeah.
that had been an option then, I'm sure that's what I would have done too.
Right. It was so different back then.
But I don't think anybody's really worried about illegally downloading anymore. I don't know if people are even doing it anymore.
No, I don't think so, because there's so many tools to get music that you want. I mean, everything's on YouTube now, right? It's a different world nowadays.
Nobody's burning CDs. So
No, that's for
I think
sure.
it's because everything's so fast with streaming. Like that was probably the problem. Like nothing worked fast enough back then to accurately listen to music.
The access is quick
Yeah.
right now, right?
Yeah.
You can get anything as quick as you want it. I mean, you can say it and it's there nowadays.
Yeah. We really worked hard for those songs. We waited a long time to download
Some of us
them,
did,
so.
but I'm so sorry about your old friend. I don't wish that on anybody.
As I tell you more of how I got into some of these other songs, unfortunately, there's a theme of illegally downloading things.
So you said it took a while after you heard that initial song to kind of come back around to it. So what was the next time you kind of returned to Andrew McMahon?
The next iteration was kind of funny. So it was like, it must have been a year or two after that. My friend had a crush on this boy, and I think he liked her back because he made her a CD. And in my mind, that usually says something. But they end up working out for whatever reason. But she got all excited that he burned her this CD, and she came like running to show us, like, "Oh, he made me this CD." I feel like we all sat around in someone's room and listened to it, and we're like, "This is so good! I want a copy of this. I want a copy of this." So she burned us all copies of this CD he made.
He was a good mix maker, huh?
He was a masterful mix maker. He should be a DJ. But for whatever reason, one CD was burned many, many times among a group of friends, and it definitely had. So I sat down and I was like, "What was on this CD?" I know that it had Oasis Wonderwall, which is so basic, but I hadn't heard it before somehow.
Oh man, I like where this is going. Oasis was my favorite band 25 years ago.
Oh person who made this? No, where did you go to high school? No.
Yeah, I would have made a mix with Wonderwall on it, but that was not me.
Yeah, it had Wonderwall on it. It had a couple songs by Taking Back Sunday, which I had never heard before, and it definitely had at least two Something Corporate songs. It had I Woke Up in a Car, and it had Down. But yeah, I remember like I woke up in a car kind of hearing that, and honesty and sort of matter-of-factness and like kind of naming the different places, and just kind of telling a story maybe more than I was used to a song doing, and just thinking that was really cool, and thinking like, I wish someone would make me a mix CD.
Yeah.
So then after that, I sought out those songs, illegally downloaded again. The thing hadn't happened with that girl's family yet. I heard about that way later, but I did connect it. I was like, I think she's the one she showed me that in her car. I really liked it. So.
Well, I've been a pretty passionate Andrew fan for a long time, as you probably know. But I've admitted on the podcast before when I don't really know a song. Some of them just slip right past me. So I think I'm at least familiar with every song that he has. I'm pretty sure I know every one that's at least been released in some capacity. But sometimes when a fan like yourself names a title, I'm like, okay, I know I've heard it. That's kind of how I felt. I was like, Last Straw, Arizona. I've heard this song and I know where to find it, but I couldn't think of how it went until I actually sat down and listened to it. So you'd think because I have a podcast about Andrew McMahon, I know every song by heart. But I really only learned about this song like 6 years ago when it was released on the deluxe edition of Everything in Transit.
Was that like a 10-year anniversary type thing, or?
Yeah, it was. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the deluxe
okay.
edition came out 10 years after the original, because originally the song wasn't on an EP or an album, so it was a little bit harder to find unless you knew where to look for it. And after the days of like what we were talking about, like Napster and Kazaa, way before the streaming era, once that downloading era was pretty much over and you couldn't do that anymore, the streaming era hadn't started yet, I didn't know how to get music other than buying CDs. I wasn't savvy enough to like know where to go find those things. So now I know of several Andrew fans that consider Last Straw Arizona to be his best B-side, and some people even think it should have been a single, but I never even knew it existed until 6 years ago, and I've just recently gotten familiar with it because it was the subject of this episode. The band is, of course, Jax Mannequin. It was on the Everything in Transit Deluxe Edition, released on October 16th, 2015. But it was originally released online in 2006, according to Wikipedia. Is that how you got a hold of it? Did you find it online back in 2006, or are you more like me?
I found it online, but I don't think it was 2006. I'm pretty sure it was 2008. I'm not sure if I might have had the opportunity to download it, but I didn't jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's funny because we were just talking so much about all the different ways people downloaded things. It really might have been one of those peer-to-peer college, like somebody else on my campus had it type deals. I do remember that I got it at the same time as Lonely for Her. Do you know that song?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and they kind of sound like they go together. There's something about the instrumentation and the key. I think on the deluxe edition, one comes after the other.
I think so too. And they're obviously recorded in the same sessions for the Everything in Transit sessions, so it makes sense they sound alike. They're produced by the same producer.
They feel a little bit like different sides of the same coin. One being kind of like I'm fine without you, and the other one kind of being like I'm lonely for her. But they sound so similar. I love it when bands do that. Put two things kind of contrasting but similar. Side by side. But I did find those two songs at the same time, and they equally drew me in, and I associate them with each other. But for whatever reason, it was summer 2008. I was on a college campus and had access. So
I do know that another place that this song was released on was the Glass Passenger Deluxe Edition. It was on the second half of it, and it was a live version.
That came out later in 2008 than I would have had this, though, because didn't that come out at the end of summer or early fall, or am I wrong about that? Maybe I just didn't get it on time.
The Glass Passenger was 2008, but the deluxe edition of the Glass Passenger actually came out on March 23rd, 2010. So I'm surprised I didn't know it from that, too.
Okay.
But then...
so you missed it a couple times,
So I missed it twice.
Yeah.
Apparently, he dropped it as a Christmas present to the fans around Christmas time 2006 with 3 other tracks. That's what I was able to gather.
Like a Christmas present, like for free. Here is a song. Oh,
just a little over a year after the album was released, he's like, and here's some tracks, extra tracks for you. Lonely for Her might have been another one. I really don't know. I know there was 3 others, according to what I read from somebody. So 2006, it originally came out for free, and so if you downloaded it, it wasn't technically illegal because the artist gave it away for free in that case.
And he says to we were looking at some live versions, and there are a couple where he says, this song, it's not on an album, feel free to illegally download it. Or feel like, I think he literally said illegally download. So I felt a little vindicated.
Thing is, like, I don't care if you illegally download it as long as you buy the new album, which was People and Things at the time. So I think that concert was in 2011, which would have been well before we got like a good, clean version on a album per se.
Yeah. And I don't think what I had was a live version. I think it was definitely like a studio version. But I don't know. I had some rarities in my possession, I guess.
Yeah, there are 2 different versions, which we'll talk about a little bit.
Okay.
But Andrew has stated that, I don't know if he said he either didn't know why it didn't make it on the album or he regrets not putting it on the album. I do know that in the Dear Jack movie, he held up a track listing and he said, here's the album, and it was handwritten. And you have to pause it, and someone out there on the internet did it for me. I did not do this.
Wonderful.
I found it. And Last Straw was on the track list at one point.
Wow. I wonder what was Dark Blue the last thing you put on there?
Yeah, so I don't think Dark Blue is there anymore.
Dark Blue took it out.
Maybe. Oh, maybe. Huh.
Quite a different song and tone and everything. If
Definitely.
you think about it. But yeah, interesting.
Definitely. I don't feel like those 2 songs can be in the same category for a few different reasons, but and just one of those reasons is like this song has a different feel to it than the majority of Everything in Transit. So I don't know if it would have really fit on the album. I mean, that's a matter of opinion. We can come back to that during the song discussion. And I don't know if it was a producer decision or an Andrew decision or someone else's to say, Last Straw's out, something else is in or whatever. So I know that Jim Wirt produced it because he had produced everything up until that point for Something Corporate and Jax Mannequin. And I'm not sure who played the instruments on it besides Andrew, because I have the original version of Everything in Transit, and it says who played on each individual track, but I don't own the deluxe edition. So I don't know if it actually says it in the liner notes. So if anybody listening does know that, feel free to share it to me on Instagram or whatever, because I'd be curious to know if, like, did Tommy Lee play drums? Did Jay McMillan play drums?
I would also like to just see all the instruments listed out because as I was listening, I was like, what is that for some
I
of the
had the
instruments?
same thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep. So that would be cool to see.
Yeah, I want to know just what is going on in that song, but it seems like compared to something corporate, with everything in transit, they were just like throwing a bunch of random instruments in there.
Oh yeah.
And on some of them, it's even hard to tell until you really dig in or listen very closely to say, okay, that's not a guitar or bass or drums or just a regular piano. That's something different.
I thought there might be a flute in this song. I don't know if you had the same thought or some sort of, I don't, I unfortunately don't know very much about like musical instruments.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
I was thinking about, I know some musicians in my neighborhood and I was like, oh, I should show them this song and say, what instrument is this? Do you think it's a flute?
I think it's maybe a keyboard made to sound like something else. That's my best guess.
Yeah. That would track.
Yeah, just because the way the notes play and that it's Andrew. That's pure speculation mostly based upon the artist.
Yes. Okay.
But it could have been anybody playing anything. I mean, if you look in the liner notes for Everything in Transit, there was a lot of different artists they brought in. So
yeah, and I mean, it was recorded at the same time as those other songs.
Yeah.
But like you said, different, what do you call it, personnel filtering in for the different songs.
Yeah, it could have been Jim Wirt playing something. He plays instruments too, so I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
So a little bit of live history. The song's been played live 38 times as far as I can tell. That includes 34 times during the Jax Mannequin years, 3 times by the Wilderness, and once on a live stream in March 2020.
Yes.
Did you happen to catch that live stream?
I didn't catch it at the time, but I went back and watched it, and it was great. And it was great to see people's comments too.
Yeah. In that case, that's one of those times when people were like, yes, it's Last Straw. And I'm like, I don't know this song. But it's cool that he's playing something rare. That's kind of what my thought was. I'll make sure I put that Instagram live stream linked in the show notes so everybody can watch that didn't get a chance. But have you ever seen Andrew live in general?
Yes, I have. I have seen him twice. I actually have been thinking very specifically about the things that I've seen live because one of my Christmas presents to my husband was an Excel spreadsheet of every concert that we've been to. But actually, he's never seen Andrew with me. He's not as big of a fan. But we had a year where we lived in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
It ended up being like a last hurrah before we had kids, just sort of like a really, really fun year. And we saw 38 concerts that year in 1 year, like ticketed events in a music venue. So it was so cool. It was so fun. We don't like country music. None of it was country music. It was all kinds of music. And I did see Andrew there. I believe it was his Zombies on Broadway tour in November of 2016, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I saw him before that too with a friend in DC at the 930 Club. Yeah, it was 2014.
Was that okay? So that was Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness.
I think that album had just come out.
Oh, that would have been a good one to see.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was supposed to see him Warped Tour 2005, but I believe it was right after his diagnosis.
Okay.
Which is such a bummer. There was a lot of things that I was excited to see at Warped Tour, but like just the not being able to see him, and I believe it was a something corporate too. And the reason for not being able to see him was like really sad.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Everything in Transit was like just right about to drop. Yep. I remember because it dropped like right when I got to college, and I went to the record store in my college town and I bought it, and my roommate and I like loved it. We made our desktop background some lyrics from Holiday from Real. Mm-hmm. They have some profanity in them, so I won't say what they are right now, but it was such a college anthem. Yeah. So I do remember that it, we were right on the precipice of Everything in Transit that summer, but yeah, I believe they were touring as he was touring with something corporate.
So you probably haven't seen this song perform live, Last Straw, Arizona, right?
I haven't, no. Yeah. And I double checked because the Christmas present has links to set lists when applicable and available. So, and you know what? They're not always complete, and some of them
Mhm.
don't have it at all.
Yeah.
But the ones that do have it, it's really cool to go back and kind of relive the concert in a different way. I love that website. That's so
Yeah.
cool that that exists.
Which one? Which website are you using?
I'm using setlist.fm.
Yeah, that's what I use for setlist. That's a really cool gift idea to put all that together for them to kind of go back and
Yeah,
relive
we
those
always talked
memories.
about doing it and then we never did. And then I kept thinking, like, it's too late. Like, this was so many years ago. I'm
Hmm.
never going to be able to remember. But I like had some crazy systematic ways of doing it, like pulling up all of the venues that I remember going to and looking from this date to this date of every show. And like, did we go to
Yeah,
this one? Did we go to this one? So it was fun. It was
that
fun to
sounds
relive that year.
tedious.
It was a really fun year.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Looking at Setlist FM, it seems like he plays this kind of randomly, but I gotta say, with the content and when it came out, and the fact that it's not on any particular album, I want to believe that it's probably intentional exactly when and why he plays it. That's my thought about it. Like he probably like plucks it out occasionally for a certain reason, right?
I think he plucks it out when he feels it's applicable to the political situation.
Possibly, yeah.
But then I'm like, oh, I think I saw him in November of 2016, which would have been a very politically charged time. But
Certainly, yeah.
I don't
Right
know.
after the
Maybe he was
election.
worried that Nashville wasn't. Nashville itself is actually very liberal, and all my friends who visited me there were really, really surprised to see Hillary signs, rainbow pride flags,
Hmm.
all that stuff. They were like, "That's what people are." I mean, it really in downtown Nashville. That is what I mean. That's probably true of a lot of city centers,
Yeah, I
but
was gonna say that's
yeah.
true of Columbus, Ohio versus Ohio at large for sure.
Yeah. But that's what a lot of people were saying on that 2020 live stream.
Hmm.
With the COVID situation mixed with the political situation, everyone was like, this song right now is like everything. So,
Yeah, in fact, so when he led into that song on the live stream, he said that it was written during a very tumultuous time for our country, and he felt that it was appropriate in March 2020 because, again, it was a very tumultuous time for our country. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about that line that you're referring to. He mentions the
uh-huh.
president when we get to the lyrics. So
Yeah.
Andrew stated in one of those, and I think you watched the same live video that I did. He stated in one of those videos that he wrote this while he was drinking a lot of gin.
Yes.
And apparently watching the news, according to the lyric, right? Because
Hmm.
that's what he says,
Hmm.
he's like drinking gin, watching the news. It makes
Yep.
sense.
Two things that pair well together or
Yeah, yeah,
disastrously together.
yeah. Maybe not. Like we usually have a glass of wine on election night. I think. I
Yeah.
know my wife and I do. But based on the era, I would assume the song has to do with Kelly. Maybe a breakup song, maybe a song about their time apart. I didn't actually find much on the songwriting piece of this, like what inspired it or where it came from, but I think the lyrics say a lot about it. What did you find anything about the songwriting?
No, I think I
Okay.
found like one Reddit post
Yes.
and kind
Okay.
of scoured that, but that was pretty much all that I saw. And then I think that the time period was clearly, if it was about an administration, it must have been the Bush administration. Like if he's referring to the president,
For sure.
that is the president I assume he was referring to.
He was president 2001, 2008, and if the song was
Yes.
written any time 2003, 4, 5, had
Which
to
it
be.
had to have
Had to
been.
be.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I do have some theories on this, and this is something that I've like randomly done research on for like
Okay.
a blog that I wrote or something. I have thought before about music and politics and how there was a time where artists felt the need to maybe retract things based on things that went on in the nation, and I thought about a couple things, but yeah, I just felt like it was a time where artists were a little more careful
Hmm.
with what they, and I don't mean to say that they weren't willing to be brave and stand by it.
I think the 9/11 tragedy changed a little bit of that. I think that was the reason for some of those things. But on the other side of the spectrum, in the same era, there was also punk compilations called Rock Against Bush, Volume 1 and 2.
Yes,
I don't know if
some
you.
very good ones.
Yeah, yeah, there were some good songs on there. And now that I've said it out loud, I didn't even think about it until you start talking about this. The song we're talking about today may have been a good fit for one of those comps. I don't know, but.
It might have, but I wonder if there was pressure from like a record label saying, "Hey, this isn't you. You're not punk,"
Yeah, possibly.
and pushing some of these other bands
Andrew may have felt that way himself. Like that I don't fit with,
I don't belong with
anti-flag and
exactly.
Bad Religion. I can't remember exactly who was on there, but those type of
Yeah.
more politically charged punk bands. So.
Alkaline Trio has a song called War Brain
Okay.
that I really, really like from that. And I remember seeing that Rock Against Bush. But
Yeah. Well, I believe I have those CDs downstairs, so I'll have to check them out.
yeah, it's a different time. Now I feel like artists are all political. And, it's very hard not to be. I remember Taylor Swift for a long time saying she was never going to get political.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of going back on that, she probably didn't want to alienate, her country fan base, or, she's from a rural part of Pennsylvania. So I don't know,
Yeah.
Maybe she felt a lot of push and pull of different people in her life. And in this day and age, it seems that no one is unpolitical.
Well, lifestyle and politics seem more intertwined these days, maybe. Or maybe it's that I'm getting older and it feels that way. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why some of it doesn't feel political as much as it is personal, but it may feel political to somebody else.
Yes.
I don't know. That's kind of my theory on it.
No, I feel that. I remember lots of kids at my school in the Young Republicans and in the Young Democrats, and almost making it sort of like a sports rivalry. Like,
oh, we didn't have that at all at my school.
John Kerry was the person they said was a flip-flop, right? Am I right about?
I believe so. I'm not actually positive, but.
So the Young Republicans organized flip-flop day, and it was like cold-ish outside, but they were like, we're all going to wear flip-flops in support of John Kerry as a flip-flop. But it's just so funny because that seems more playful than things are at this point.
Yeah, you're right. That feels very playful. Whereas I worked in a school as recently as 2019 when Donald Trump won the election. There was a junior in the high school who literally wore a yard sign, like a sandwich sign on him of Donald Trump. And
oh man,
must have been the day after they called the election or something, whenever that was in the span of time. But he wore that the next day to school and riled up everybody, like whether they were Trump supporting kids or non-Trump, or Clinton supporting kids, based on the comments that he made and that I know that other students around him were making. Definitely a different vibe than what you're referring to in the Kerry Bush election era.
I think so. Yeah. And I did want to give the context that I grew up in the DC metro area. So politics are huge, where I'm from.
That probably makes a
But back
difference.
then, it did seem a little bit more, well, and I wonder if it was more like a lot of our parents worked for various political campaigns and things like that.
A lot of parents had government positions or something related to government, I'm sure.
So it seemed like people were politically active, and it seemed like kind of even spread. I mean, both sides were pretty vocal.
We talk about these artists who are political, but I would never put Andrew in that category. And so when I listened closely to the lyrics of this song, and it's really only that one or two lines.
Yes.
But it surprised me. But like you said, he was drinking gin, he was watching the news, and I can pretty much place all my bets on where he lies politically.
Yes.
Without this song. But does he have other lyrics that are political in nature?
So I did a little bit of digging, and admittedly, I haven't listened. Like, I feel like I have listened to the first couple albums of every project, but I have not listened to every single album. But I did see some people saying that Blue Vacation was
that's right.
political in nature. And so I sought that out, and I was like, this kind of is, but it didn't seem as overtly or as maybe like aggressively.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the sound of the song. So we kind of started this conversation earlier with like the instruments and not exactly knowing what they are. And that's kind of what I want to start with. So we don't know what that extra instrument is in the verses, right? There's obviously a piano. There's all the standard instruments. I got to believe it's a keyboard. I can't come up with anything better than that. But it sounds like, right after he says the word Vicodin, it sounds like a xylophone.
Oh my gosh. I made a note about that too.
Yeah.
I wrote that it was very Disney sounding, which I thought was so funny. Well, in my head, maybe he took all the keys and like ran his hand over them. But I love it when artists do stuff like that. Like he just talks about taking drugs, and then we hear something that sounds like it could be like the beginning of Cinderella.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so cool. Yeah, I really called attention to that as well.
I hope I'm using it in the correct context here, but I recently learned a new vocabulary word.
Oh,
I was talking to a harp player,
harpist? Yeah.
and I was doing audio visual for this performance, and like I was setting up microphones to try to catch the harp player because the drums were kind of overpowering the harp player. It wasn't a real technical setup. It was like really simple setup. But I was like, I'm going to put a microphone next to the harp player. I really want to hear that harp more. And I was like, I love when you do that, like, that's a terrible sound effect. But like, I was like, what's
I
that
made a
called
terrible
when
one too.
when you go across it? Like, and she said, that's a glissando. I think I heard a xylophone glissando
Glissando.
after he says that he sings the word Vicodin in this song. But I don't know if I'm using that word correctly.
I love that word, and I would like to incorporate it into my vocabulary.
Yeah, I never thought I'd get a chance to use it so soon. But
yeah,
here I am using the word.
I love harps. I had a harpist at my wedding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love the sound of it.
I know that like there's plenty of synthesizers that can replicate the sound of pretty much any instrument in the world. So I don't know if it was just a synthesizer that's making that sound. But it definitely, like, there's traces of it all throughout the verses, and I'm just not sure what that is.
I do think that it creates kind of like an eerie atmosphere. I think about lyrics more than I think about sound, but I think about the sound when it ties with the lyrics,
Yeah.
And he has that line about, you looked like a bat beneath the moon, which was such a cool thing to talk about, like a beautiful woman looking like a bat. It like seemed so random,
Yeah.
but it kind of had that creepy sort of Halloween-y vibe is how I felt the music, the tone and the key of it.
I didn't think of it that way. I'm gonna go with a new perspective when I listen to the song for sure. And I knew I would after this conversation, but
it could be that the lyrics are shadowing the music for me and coloring it a certain way. But yeah, that's how I felt.
I definitely thought of, like I said, though, other Everything in Transit songs that we know so well and are very familiar with kind of like those random sounds that, where's that coming from? Like because a musician might know, but like there's so many things happening on that album in general that I don't know where the sounds are coming from, even if I read the liner notes. And I would put that sound in the same category for sure.
If this had to remind you of a song on Everything in Transit, what song does it remind you of?
Oh, I would say it's in the more odd set, like Miss Delaney. Than the others. Like, I feel like many of the songs on Everything in Transit are like standard rock songs, pop songs, like ballads. And then Miss Delaney's like somewhere, I don't know. And I think it's the sounds. I think it's the different sounds going on in Miss Delaney, like a lot of synthesizer. That kind of makes me want to categorize it that way.
When he says she likes the Beach Boys more than radio metal, for me, that kind of makes me think of the song. Like it kind of almost has that older sound to it.
Yep.
Of Miss Delaney. I was actually going to say La La Lie. It reminds me of that because I feel like they both kind of have the, I'm fine without you. It's all good. Don't even worry about me over here. You go out and do your thing. And so if it had to remind me of one, because like we were saying, Dark Blue is so different. Like, taking this song off and putting Dark Blue on almost changes the tone of the whole album.
Dark Blue feels like, even though, or not just because it was a single, it feels like the centerpiece of the album. And I think Andrew felt that way too. Yeah, to have that there would feel very different. Or just to have Dark Blue absent and even Last Straw Arizona somewhere else in the track list would just make it a very different album.
Yeah.
If Last Straw Arizona was included in the album, I would say it should go toward the end. I wouldn't want to take anything away from Everything in Transit, of course. Like, I think it's a perfect album. But I feel like if it was after Made for Each Other and before Into the Airwaves, I think that could be fitting.
Yeah, I think it could go around there too, because those songs seem like they kind of waffle back and forth between tones of like hopefulness or like moving on or kind of being sad without someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like different stages of like grieving a relationship, which I guess if we are to take this all as autobiographical is ultimately the person he ended up with. So that's interesting to think about.
Just one other thing about the sound of the song I was going to say is like, so we just talked about how it fit into Everything in Transit, but there's certain points in the song I feel like it would fit better on the Glass Passenger. There's
Interesting.
points in the song, and I don't know what it is. In fact, I was listening to the song over and over, and the song I thought of was The Dropout, the So Unknown.
Oh yeah, I like that song a lot.
Yeah, I love that song. But I went back and listened to that song, The Dropout, and no, it doesn't sound anything like it. But like for some reason, that's the song it made me think of. But when I listened to bits of them like back and forth, and I was like, nope, I don't hear any kind of correlation there. But for some reason, it made me think of that song.
I think the lyrics on the whole are darker on Glass Passenger.
I agree.
And for me, I mean, hindsight is 2020, but I'm assuming that it's like the before awful diagnosis album, the after awful diagnosis album, and
Yeah,
of course it's going to
true.
be darker and we're going to get more comparisons to things like hospitals and, everything in transit sort of feels like it's more of like a breakup album than he doesn't know he has an illness, which is so interesting.
There's this really cool change up like in the middle of the chorus, the second and third chorus, not the first. But when he sing, like right before he gets to "Without You, I Don't Have a Place," that kind of line right in the middle of the chorus, there's like a change in tempo or something.
I like that too. And I actually have something similar in my notes. I think that it plays with your expectations
Hmm.
because the first time he says, "Without you, I don't sleep, just dream," and it
Yep.
kind of it does like almost like a syncopated thing. So when he says "without you," you think he's going to go exactly the same way he went the first time, but instead he goes, "Without you, I don't have a place that's safe from all the
Okay.
monsters." And to me, it's like quick, and then your brain is hoping for like thinking,
Is
expecting
expecting
quick,
quick.
and then it's
Yeah.
like long drawn out and kind of
That's what it is.
beautiful. And
That's the point in the song that like really gets my attention. And like leaning in, like I want to hear more. Like, what is that? What did he do there?
yeah, I can only think of one other song that does it, and this is such a random example, but it is Blink 182 Going Away to College. And it's like, "But you're so beautiful to me." But then they never do that again. And they just say, "But you're so beautiful."
Yes.
I love it when that does happen
Hmm.
because it's less expected.
Yeah, he definitely does that in other songs. I love that trick. Like it always gets my attention. And I know that's what it's designed for, I'm sure, but I love it.
Yeah.
Now that we're getting into lyrics, you ready to talk some lyrics?
Yes. And I know I've already talked a lot about them, but that is
That's
what I
okay.
listen
We've
to.
touched on a few, but like it's hard to talk about the sound or the instrumentation without being able to listen to the song and not referring to the words that he's
Yeah, and
saying,
say
right?
it's
That's how
right
we
after he says this thing. Yeah, I don't know if I could say the pre-chorus, the bridge. I don't know. I don't always know what those things mean. But yeah.
Yeah, same.
Oh, I guess one question that I was wondering is, do you have any idea what Last Straw Arizona means? Because like I have an idea of what it could mean, but I mean definitely try to look it up and see if it was the name of a city or if it was the name of a bar or something like that, and nothing.
Yeah, same. I came up empty-handed, so I don't think it's a place.
Hmm.
My opinion,
Hmm.
without any
Sure.
evidence to back this up, is that it's maybe a state of mind.
Ooh. And so do you know anything about his connection to Arizona? I don't.
Only that he's referenced being in Arizona in another song, Halls. I know a little bit about the story of that song in that he got really drunk with the band and then he ended up, and I think
Uh-huh.
this is in the book, and then he called Kelly and he's like, I'm flying home in the morning. I'm coming
Oh.
back. He went back home while the band was in Arizona and had to meet back up with them at some other point.
That's funny because I feel like that song, he has a line that really sticks out to me in that song about, "I decided that like a broken heart could write a perfect song." And
Yeah.
it did. So now you're gone. That's so crazy.
Yeah, because he broke up with her. He thought he needed to, go out and live the single
Hmm.
man
Hmm.
lifestyle for a while, see what that was like. So that's what that line's referencing. But then, obviously he missed her, which we hear all through
Yeah.
everything in transit. Although the song was released much later, probably written even later, references that same time period where they were broken up.
Yeah.
He wanted to go back home and see her.
But yeah.
Back to the Last Straw, Arizona. I assume that because the subject of Halls takes place at the same time as maybe when Last Straw, Arizona was written, and maybe he's referencing that time he was in Arizona missing
Yeah,
color.
yeah.
That's my best guess, but that's just all like speculation, putting together all these different lyrics. And
So that is interesting. Yeah, so like a last straw, the last straw, so I want to see you. Not the last straw, so the relationship's over. But then later in the song, she said, this is the last straw.
I don't know if it's more, that line is more from Kelly's perspective, because
Yes,
the
I wondered
bridge
about exactly what you're
says,
probably about to say.
"This is the last straw," she said, "and I won't wait for you forever. While you run around like JFK, you watched that poor girl waste the best years of her life." Ouch.
Favorite line of the song. And I love it because of the ambiguity that you just mentioned. For a really
Mm-hmm.
long time, I always heard it as he's the man, he is the person singing the song, and he's saying, I won't wait for you while you run around like JFK. The person who's running around like JFK, quote unquote, is the girl who's going out looking like a bat beneath the moon while he's staying home. But you could read it either way. You could read the continuation of she said, this is the last straw. She said, I won't wait for you forever, which is probably the more normal way to read it because people don't typically gender bend things in their brain, right? So if they think if
Mm-hmm.
somebody's saying something in a song, I'm not going to sit around like that poor girl did.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be Andrew. They would think that that would be like Kelly's perspective. But I think it could be Andrew. And I do think it is really cool when artists gender bend in that way
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have to be male or female to be acting like some president guy who slept around. I don't think that it has to be a prescribed gender. And you don't have to be female to feel like you're wasting the best years of your life. You could be male and feeling that way.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's my favorite part of the song. It's just it just sticks in my ear because JFK, like it's so
Especially since he mentions that,
the current president.
yeah, some people might connect those two. When I think about the president, how did he become the president? He's not talking about
No,
JFK. I mean, there's no
unless
way.
this is like a historical song and he's just some go out of. I don't even know. Could you
No, I'm
watch
pretty
JFK on the news?
sure
I think you could. I guess you could. And you'd
you
definitely be
could.
drinking gin while you did it.
Yeah, I don't think he's referring to JFK in the first verse of the song, but like I think maybe because he mentions the current president that JFK came up as another reference, like, oh, running around like JFK. I don't know. Like I interpreted that line as like Andrew was this somewhat fawned over, leader of a band, and she was tired of like sitting around watching that, and like he's always running off partying and having a great time. He's always on tour, and she's like back home, and she's ready to go to school, and she's ready to get, move out and get a career, and she could be being held up by that, and like she's tired of. I don't know. That's my best guess.
The beginning of the song, it kind of makes it sound like the difference between like going out and staying in. And you think that the one going out is the one causing the problems and the one staying in. But in this case, he's staying in and he's drinking gin and he's mad at the
Watching the
TV and
news.
he's taking a Vicodin.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like there's kind of a lot going on. It sounds like a tumultuous time altogether, and I don't know if I can prescribe one or the other. I mean, it's kind of hard to follow like who the camera is on at a given point in the song.
Right. So I assume the first verse is about George W. Bush being
Yes. The
reelected.
time frame would be right.
That would have been November 04.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
And so he's frustrated, but he's also depressed that he's not with the girl that he knows he's meant to be with. So he's just drinking, in a hotel. I don't know. That's kind of what I got. What's interesting to me is like the part of the chorus that's in all three choruses, and you never write me letters, and you never sent my sweaters, so I could stay warm when I was without you. Without you, I don't sleep, just dream. To me, they're not like that. Doesn't mean they're broken up. That means he misses her, but it could mean
You
both.
never sent my sweaters so I could stay warm when I was without you.
So it might be like I'm out on tour and I don't feel like you're supporting me.
Yeah, you're not like sending good vibes my way or sending me like a care package or like the
Yeah.
figurative equivalent of something like that.
And then the second half, which you referenced earlier, without you, I don't have a place that's safe from all the monsters that hide in my head and sing me to sleep. And in the third verse, a place that's safe from all the monsters that hide in my head and keep me till dawn. So like that's a little darker.
Yeah, it's like going from I want your support to I am really going through tough times of mental health without your support.
In the bridge that we already talked about, I feel like that definitely points to a breakup, though. This is the last straw, and I won't wait for you forever while you run around like JFK. You watch that poor girl waste the best years of her life, and I'll be damned if I'm going out. I will not go out that way. That second half, I have no idea whose perspective that's from.
Which I think is really cool. I think that the whole song is sort of comparing a failing political state to a failing relationship in a way, which I think is interesting. It's like,
I think you're right.
I'm so sick of what I'm seeing on the news, and I'm also so sick of what is happening in this relationship, and I'm like continually disappointed by the news cycle and what's happening, and I'm also disappointed by you, you know? Oh, and another thing that I did think about with Arizona was that it's often a swing state. I don't know if it was then, but I know that it has been recently.
You know what? You're right. It's been recently. I don't know. That's interesting.
To make that connection even further, if it were applicably a swing state at the time, like the last straw in a relationship and then like the last holdout like county or something, you know, the last one that is not going to go, you know, the way that you want it to go on election night. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's so interesting for a song to be equally about a relationship and politics. Like, I feel like you don't see it often.
So I had a thought, and I want to look another thing up. Was Arizona the last state called for Bush?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I will have chills if it was.
That would make sense,
yeah.
Right? Bush did go, or Arizona went to Bush.
The last straw. But it wasn't the last one. That's a hard thing to know how to look up. Yeah.
Arizona hosted the third presidential debate on October 13th, 2004. Oh, maybe he wrote it while I was watching the debate.
It could be. No, it really could be. So, you know, that could definitely be what he's talking about.
Yeah, maybe he was watching that third presidential debate in October 2004, and that's what he was frustrated about.
When he says Arizona in the song, he says, I see Arizona stars from here, but Peter Pan is miles away. Couldn't tell you why he says anything about Peter Pan. That seems so random to me.
Every time Peter Pan is referenced in a song or like poetry or a story in like a subtle reference, I feel like it's referring to somebody who doesn't want to grow up.
That connects with the story you told about Halls.
Yeah.
And just kind of wanting to, you know, do cartwheels and go out drinking and not be serious about a relationship.
Maybe Peter Pan is miles away, as in like, I don't feel like that right now. I don't feel like that anymore. He's miles away. It's not me anymore.
Oh, okay. I see Arizona stars from here. He's remembering the time in Tempe, you know, where he was doing all that craziness, and he's miles away.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have another question for you about what you think lyrics mean. There are some things I'll never understand, why the country needs a God and a woman needs a man. What does that mean to you?
What does it mean to me?
It was not until I overanalyzed it until I think I know what it means. But I always just thought that it was like, you know, when a man loves a woman or something. Like, what do you think?
I took that to mean like he's thinking about all these like big questions that he's not sure why he's thinking about. Like he's thinking a little more deeply and a little bit bigger
He's drinking gin and watching the news
than he would expect to be. And that's the only way I took it. I don't know what the lyric means to him, but I just think that he's like, wow, these are big questions. These are very deep questions. Like, where's my mind at right now?
And then that would be far away from Peter Pan, like we were speculating before. In my mind, since this is all about, you know, why did he become the president and, you know, feeling down about the political cycle, in my mind, those are his critiques on some like conservative values.
Oh,
Why the
okay.
country needs a God, kind of like separation of church and state, and a
Oh,
woman needs a man, like marriage equality, like, why not two men? Why not two women? But I
good
used to
point.
only think of it the way that you said it too. Like, why do I need this person? Or
Hmm.
why does anyone need anyone? But overanalyzing it for like looking for political symbolism, that's what that comes up to
It
me.
comes right after those lines about drink gin, watch the news. Some things I'll never understand. So, like, you wonder if those were the values or the things of
Yeah.
debate that were maybe
Or
coming
yeah,
up
yeah,
at the
exactly. Oh my
time in the
gosh.
election. So,
Topics of the 2004 debate
yeah,
could be another thing to look up. Yeah, no,
crazy.
we could go down such a wormhole trying to figure out what exact TV programming was Andrew McMahon watching while writing this song.
I mean, he's given us a lot of hints here. He's given us a lot to work with. We just
Yeah.
gotta be detectives here.
I guess I did say earlier in the episode that I'm an English teacher, but you can probably see now that I like to do a deep
Oh
dive. It's
yeah,
like a poem that I'm
I
analyzing,
love
but
that.
yeah,
I absolutely love it.
there's a lot to look at.
I love how passionately he sings those lines, though. Like that second half of the chorus, I mentioned it earlier. I just want to bring it back up, where he sings that "Without you, I don't have a place that's safe from all the monsters." That part alone makes me think this belongs on Everything in Transit because it's such a great hook. The way he sings it, it's like it grabs my heart. So, like an Everything in Transit song does.
Safe from the monsters is incredible imagery too, to be singing it in that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. That's probably what grabbed me about this song. I definitely thought it was unique. It didn't really sound that much like a lot of other songs that had been album tracks.
yeah.
So I was like, ooh, show me more of these kind of weirdo ones.
So, usually I ask this at the beginning of the episode, and so I'm going to ask
Mhm.
it now. Why this song? Why Last Straw, Arizona?
I think I like that it's kind of political in nature, and I like that it's rare in that way.
Hmm.
Going back and watching some recordings of live versions, hearing him say, "Oh, it should have been on the album," I kind of agree because I'm sure I could sacrifice a song for it to be on the album. I don't know exactly which one,
Hmm.
but I'm sure that I could.
I'm surprised when people say this is one of their favorite songs by Andrew because it's a song that I don't have the history with. So I think that has a lot to do with it. If it had been on Everything in Transit, I think I would feel very differently about this song. When I popped that CD in the player, that would have been part of the mix.
And it would have been a different time in your life too.
Yep.
And I feel like it could have been one of those songs where it like came to me at the right time in my
Hmm.
life, to be like a time in my life where I am starting to get pretty curious about politics and where I
Hmm.
stand. And I like, there's definitely like a time in my life when I could go out and buy gin, like just starting to be able to do something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I didn't hear it right when it came out either. I wonder if maybe I wouldn't have been ready for it if it had been on Everything in Transit and I was a college freshman.
I think I probably would have liked it more if I heard it back then than I do now.
I mean, personal maturity levels, bringing it back to Peter Pan.
Yeah.
I was more, F yeah, we can live like this, as my screensaver as a college freshman. So it was later on.
So I think you already mentioned your favorite part of the song, right? It's the bridge where he sings, "This is the last straw," she said, "I won't wait for you forever."
Lyrically, that's my favorite part.
Is there another part that you like a lot?
Well, I would say musically, it is what we talked about before, the "Without you, I don't sleep," going into "Without you, I don't have a place that's safe from all the
Hmm.
monsters." I'm sure I'll never find a karaoke bar that has this song.
I don't
I'm
think so.
sure the likelihood of that is very low unless something really changes in the karaoke industry. But if I were going to be singing karaoke, I'd be like, oh, this is the part I belt out, the
Yeah.
"Safe from all the monsters" line.
Somebody needs to make a karaoke version of this song at least and put it on YouTube for Marissa, all right?
Yes, please.
Well, my favorite part of the song is one I've brought up twice, so why not a third time? Is the one that you just said. I absolutely love that part in the second and third chorus. That's up there with the best of the hooks in Everything in Transit, and it makes me think that this song belongs there just with that part alone. I will say I don't like the verses, like the music in the verses as much, and so that's where the
Mhm.
song loses me. But that chorus is enough to like make me want to listen and wait for it, and it's so worth waiting for because it's a huge payoff.
I agree that, yeah, payoff is a good word for it. And it's catchy. I feel like sometimes you hear a B-side or rarity that you're like, I kind of see why this didn't make it,
Hmm.
because it's like maybe it's less forgettable, or it's more
More
forgettable,
forgettable, yeah.
less melodic, like something that almost sounds like it's like their notes version of a song, not
Hmm.
really sounding so finished. This song sounds very finished and it sounds catchy. It catches your ear.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I do feel the way you were just describing that certain B sides fall for people. That's
Hmm.
kind of the way I feel about the verses. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
lyrics aside, just the tune, the melody, it doesn't grab me until the chorus. And so I wonder if that's why I've kind of put this off to the side for so many years, because it comes on and I'm like, I don't really know that song.
It needs a hook. It needs
Maybe I
something
skip
to
it.
hook you in
Yeah, it needs an
immediately.
early hook.
He does. Yeah, he has early hooks in some of his other, in a lot of his songs, if you think about it. Yeah.
Holiday from Real is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah. The
That's
opening
hook after hook
lines.
after hook
Yeah, yeah.
in that song, which is makes it a great opener.
I can see what you mean. Now, some of the more boring parts, like you're saying, the lyrics are not boring. And I think that's what, like, it's
Hmm.
like, you look like a bat. I took a Vicodin. I drank some gin and I watched the news. To me, all of this is like very like, oh yeah, like preach.
When you say it that way, it fits in with a song like Holiday from Real.
It kind of does. Yeah, it comes in with a hard with all the substances and debauchery.
Where does a song rank for you, like in the overall catalog? Is this like top tier? Is this like right in the middle?
I would definitely say it's like my favorite B-side.
Okay.
Oh, does Constantine count as a B-side? Maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot there.
Sort of, kind of. It was on Ready Break, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
It's definitely top 10, maybe top 5. I would really have to sit down. I mean, I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really up there. I mean, I think it's a really interesting song and very passionately sung, very interesting lyrics.
After giving it all these listens and after our conversation, and I'm not just saying this for effect, like honestly, it's going to move up.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
have converted you.
So it's going to move up. I don't know if it'll get quite to the middle tier. It might, but it's going to move up from where it was because, and a lot of it's just familiarity. I mean, I
Mhm.
might grab another one of those songs from the bottom and just like, it's making me think maybe I should give some of those lower tier Andrew songs on my list like a more of a listen, more like listen through a few times just to listen for that hook or listen for that thing that gets me with Andrew songs because
Yeah.
just about every Andrew song has it for me.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the different versions then? Do you know
Mhm.
there's two versions of the song? There's the original 2006 and then the remastered version that's on Spotify.
Are they really similar?
They're pretty similar.
Okay, okay. I don't know that I know the difference, and I don't know that I know which one. I mean, I guess if I found it in 2008, it'd have to be the 2006 one that I'd been
Yeah,
listening to that whole
it
time.
was, yeah.
But then if I stream it, I'm probably listening to the new one.
Yeah, if you stream it on Spotify or Apple, you're listening to the new remastered
I
version.
gotta get my old iPod out.
Yeah, if you're listening on MP3
Okay.
pre 2015 version, then you're listening to the 2006 version. And then on YouTube, you can find both. One of them's just Last Straw or Last Straw Arizona.
Uh-huh.
If you're listening to the remastered version on YouTube, it actually says it and has the Everything Transit cover on it.
What difference can you hear?
So I think the original's more raw. I think even the vocals, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious as to whether he re-recorded the vocals actually, because I think it
Oh,
sounds a little bit different.
yeah.
Without a doubt, prefer the remastered version.
I will have to hunt them both down and do that.
You know that part after the bridge that you enjoy? There's like I don't know if you'd call it a solo, but it's an instrumental break. Maybe
Do
you'd call it an
do.
instrumental
Yeah,
break.
and now that you say it, I think it does. I think I
It
do
sounds
know what
very
you
different.
mean. It sounds less demo-y.
That's where it's most noticeable, I would say. And then maybe in the first verse, that sound that we were talking about earlier,
That I was like, is it a flute? Probably not, but kind of sounds like one.
it's more defined and more present in the remastered version, I think.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Any other final thoughts before we like on Andrew or anything you didn't feel like you got a chance to talk about?
I guess the only thing that I'm just remembering now is that when he talked about, I will not waste the best years of my life or whatever, it made me think of in 21 and Invincible. He says his mom tells him, don't waste your youth like I did.
Oh yeah.
Really seizing the moment when you're young and don't waste it waiting for someone or, Yeah, I connected that, even though I don't think that song is really maybe of the same mindset. It seems like a similar theme.
The theme of that verse is that his mom's saying, don't make the same mistake I did. Enjoy yourself.
Which is dark.
Yeah, maybe he's taking that advice by leaving Kelly to go, quote, enjoy himself for a while or whatever.
But then all he's doing is drinking gin and watching the news. So I don't know how much he's enjoying himself.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Yes. Get me on the next flight.
And he remedies it eventually. But, well, thank you everyone who continues to listen to the show. And if it's your first time, be sure to check out all the previous episodes. By the way, Spotify now allows you to rate podcasts, so it's a brand new feature. If that's where you catch podcasts, be sure to rate the show there so more Andrew fans can find us. And of course, thank you, Marissa.
Thank you. I loved being here.
How can we find your podcast? I want to make sure that I listen to it, but that everybody listening here can find it if they'd like to.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's called The Terrible Writing Podcast. It's on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, all that good stuff. I did really put it out into the universe. So if any of you guys are writers and you want to read bad things you wrote a long time ago, I would be happy to try to start it back up for you.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I think that would be really fun to breathe some new life into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be checking it out and listening. So, and if you'd like to follow in Marissa's footsteps and chat about a song with me on this show, email somethinginthewilderness@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram. In fact, feel free to hit me up on Instagram anytime. I love when people contact me and just want to talk about songs and things. It's a lot of fun. Once again, thanks, Marissa, for taking the time out around the holidays to be here. And thank you guys all who continue to listen, because without you, I don't have a place that's safe from all the monsters.